It's a great pleasure to be with you here today and to share in the achievements and support of Egyptian Americans for freedom and justice, and to be here and to see the great work that they do here in support of the Egyptian revolution in Egypt. It is so important to realize that the work done by Egyptians the world over is an important contribution to supporting the freedom of Egyptians and their struggle for rights in Egypt. Let me begin with a clear message. Today, Egypt is at a crossroads. It is at a crossroads between the continuation of military dictatorship and the struggle for freedom and rights. And it is opportune that I make this speech today in the United States, a country that knows the meaning of struggling for freedom and rights. And it is shameful, and this is a message I send to the American administration and to all Americans. It is shameful that this administration and that a country built on democracy should be supporting a military dictatorship in this day and age that kills its own people, that tortures its citizens, that rapes its women and children in prisons. Shame on the United States and its allies who are responsible for the support they give to General Sisi in Egypt. From this podium, I call on the American administration to stand by its values. Those values will lead it to security, the security and stability it seeks in Egypt and the region. Without a return to democracy in Egypt, we will only see greater radicalization, extremism, and violence. And that is why, when we talk of revolution here and the struggle for revolution, it is about a struggle for rights and freedom in Egypt. The Egyptian people have suffered under military dictatorship for more than 60 years. Today, after the beginning of a democratic process that brought about the first freely elected president of Egypt, President Mohammed Morsi, we saw his overthrow by a military dictatorship, one that is very similar to the one witnessed in Egypt during the 1950s and 60s, one that does not allow for freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, or any of the basic rights understood by any constitution or any democracy the world over. What we are seeing in Egypt is a breakthrough, because after 2011, the barrier of fear broke in Egypt, and the people were willing to confront a regime. But all that happened was the overthrowing of one man. We still await the fall of the regime. And today, the struggle that has taken place over the last 5 years since the 25th of January revolution is a realization by the Egyptian people that the struggle must continue. The struggle must continue until the fall of the regime, the complete fall of the regime. Today, there are agendas and attempts to ensure that perhaps there is change, and we see this from different political forces, to see that there is a change that will bring down General Sisi. But that is not enough. What the Egyptian people seek today is a cleansing of their institutions, a cleansing of the state from all the corruption that it has seen from the military and from a corrupt elite. Egypt's struggle today is about the creation of a new political and economic order. People often ask me, what is your vision? What is the vision of the Egyptian Revolutionary Council? Are you only supporters of Shar'iyya? Are you only supporters of President Morsi? Yes, we are. Yes, we are supporters of President Morsi, the first elected president of Egypt. We are supporters of the first parliament of Egypt. We are supporters of Egypt's first constitution. But we also have a vision. We have a vision for Egypt's future. We have a vision in which Egypt has a political system that holds all accountable. We have a vision for an Egypt that is free of corruption, an Egypt that returns to its people, an Egypt that is not owned by an elite, a corrupt elite, but one that serves the majority of its people. We want an economic system that is not corrupt. We want an economic system that delivers to the poor. We all know that the majority of Egyptians today live in conditions that are unacceptable in any other part of the world. 40% of Egyptians live on less than $2 a day, and 25% of Egyptians live under the poverty line. That is unacceptable in a country where the gap between the wealthy and the poor is so vast and no one is held accountable. The fabric of the Egyptian state and the social fabric of our society is collapsing. It has been collapsing for decades and no one is being held accountable. Today, the Egyptian regime of General Sisi is a regime of a minority. It is a minority that is being supported by the democracies of the West and by the monarchies of the Gulf. That is a shameful condition. The majority of the people of Egypt are capable of changing all that. It is within their hands to change it. And that change can come about through popular resistance, through civil disobedience. And civil disobedience takes many forms. The Egyptian people will choose the way that best suits them towards resistance. But they are going down a road towards greater resistance. That resistance will not start just on January the 25th in a couple of days. That resistance started not in 2011 by many who participated in the January 25th revolution. The Egyptian people have been struggling for a very long time. They have been struggling throughout the 20th century to bring down dictatorship. But that struggle has been carried by a few, while the many waited and stood silent. I believe the change that is happening today is that far more people today in Egypt are going to participate in that struggle. And that is the beginning of the revolution that will bring down the military regime, inshallah. The Egyptian people will deliver. They will deliver not only to their own in Egypt, but they will deliver to the region and to the Ummah as a whole. Freedom and rights in Egypt is something that we need to support. And we need to support this by exposing the atrocities that are happening under the military regime every day to every government, to the American government, to civil society, and to all those that live out in freedom in the West. But we need to remember that when change comes to Egypt, it will be the beginning of change throughout the region. Egypt, Syria, Palestine, the whole area is inextricably linked. Freedom in one area means the beginning of freedom for all. Our struggle is not a nationalist struggle that is contained within certain boundaries. We believe in the rights and justice for all in our region, and the beginnings of the unity of our Ummah in order that we can deliver to our people and free our occupied lands. Thank you very much.